Wow, what a game we have upon us in Week 18. It is the Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. It's crossover time. Man, Week 1 all the way to Week 18 for this crossover. What a wait. Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks with Brian Peacock of Locked On 49ers. The biggest storylines. We're getting into this Week 18 matchup for all the marbles on today's NFL crossover.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to a Locked On Podcast Network crossover. Brian Peacock here of Locked On 49ers with Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks at BD Peacock at Corbin Smith NFL. Such a great game on the schedule for Week 18 for the NFC West, for home field advantage throughout the playoffs and the 1 seed in the NFC. It's the 13-win Seahawks visiting the 12-win San Francisco 49ers. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Seahawks, and every crossover Thursday presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Wow. I can't remember a time when we had this big of a gap, Corbin, between our crossovers. In fact, it feels like in the offseason we talked more recent than we do between a Week 1 and a Week 18 crossover. It was the 49ers who beat the Seahawks 17-13 in Week 1. And what a season of ups and downs it has been to lead us to this Week 18 matchup, where the winner will win the NFC West. The winner will have 1 seed in the NFC and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And for the 49ers, Corbin, potentially just staying home the whole time, because guess what? The Super Bowl's in their stadium at Levi's. And to be honest with you, we might not be done, because we might get a third version of this either in Seattle or at Levi's with the 49ers and the Seahawks again sometime in the playoffs. But I can't wait for this one. What is the big storyline right now in Seattle leading up to this Week 18 matchup?
The big storyline is, can Sam Darnold deliver in his golden moment? Because last year he had a very similar situation with the Minnesota Vikings and wasn't quite able to get it done. But nobody thought he could beat the Rams, and he got that dragon slayed a few weeks ago. And this has been such a weird year for Seattle, because the offense is still a top 5 scoring offense, but it hasn't felt like it because they've had so many first halves in the last 2 months that they've just kind of been dormant. And then in the second half, they come out and they suddenly look up. It's like, oh, they scored 27 points somehow in this game. And that's just kind of the way the season has been for the Seahawks. And when your defense is as good as what Seattle's is, you put up 27, you're going to win the vast majority of your games. But the eyes are going to be on Sam Darnold in this one against one of his former teams. And obviously, he wasn't a starter with San Francisco, but an opportunity to beat the guy that he has talked about learning so much from, being Brock Purdy, of all people. A chance to beat him this time when he got inside the 20, and then fumbled at the end of the first matchup. And like you said, it feels like the Jacob Hollister, a deck of cards away from the goal line game, was more recent than Week 1.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like it's been a long time since these two teams played.
Look, I'm glad you brought up that Thursday nighter with the Seahawks and the Rams, because I know that 49ers and Seahawks fans love to hate on each other and love to argue, and I'm sure they're at it in the YouTube comments. If you are listening or watching this podcast, you can probably go watch the comments and see what's happening there. But can we at least all agree for a minute that the Rams are overrated, right? They were the 1 seed. Come on, they're 3rd place in the NFC West, very likely.
And they can still win the whole dang thing. Like, that's the thing. All 3 of these teams could win, be holding up a Lombardi trophy.
It's funny because I'm very, if you're not watching, you don't see the smile on my face. I'm very much joking about that. This is wide open. This is crazy. I can't remember a year where 1 through 7 in the NFC, 1 through 7 in the AFC. This is wide open. It could be any team. I don't know who has the advantage here. I don't know who has the advantage Sunday with the 49ers, or Saturday, with the 49ers and the Seahawks. We were trying to think about this, and we were talking about the heater that which is the story, if you're talking about biggest storylines with the 49ers right now, is how good the offense is playing, and Brock Purdy accounting for 10 touchdowns, 8 throwing, 2 rushing in the last 2 weeks, 11 touchdowns if you want to talk about the pick 6 he threw to start the game against the Chicago Bears, which the 49ers were able to come back from. The story with the 49ers, how good Brock Purdy is playing, and how, despite how weird the season has gone and all the players missing from the 49ers, then you add on to it George Kittle and Trent Williams, and they still put up 42 points on the Chicago Bears in week 17. It's really been insane. There's no excuses for how good Brock Purdy has been playing recently. And we were talking about this yesterday on Locked On 49ers, Corbin, about, okay, well, man, Sam Darnold has had such a great year, but does he have so much to prove to go win a game like this and go win late in the season? And we're trying to we asked the question, it was like, well, look, what's the biggest game that Sam Darnold has won? This would clearly be the biggest. What's the biggest game that Sam Darnold's won in his entire career? Because Brock Purdy's been to a Super Bowl. And for Sam Darnold, it probably was a couple of weeks ago on Thursday, right? Is that the biggest win in Sam Darnold's career? Because he's still not going to shake that monkey off his back. That was a big win for him, but he's got to win some more.
Yeah, you're making a really good point. Until he's done what Brock Purdy has done, and he has led a team on a playoff race and multiple wins in the postseason, people are going to be skeptical. And I completely understand it. Look, we talked about this on our Seahawks squad show earlier in the week, that, and I know there's going to be some 49ers fans that don't agree with me on this, and that's okay. That's what makes this fun. I think when Sam Darnold is playing at his absolute best, he has a higher ceiling than Brock Purdy. And it's not saying, that's not taking shots at Brock Purdy. It's just Sam Darnold was a top 3 pick for a reason. Like, the guy's got a howitzer on him, and he can just make jaw-dropping plays that you're just like, whoa. The problem is he also could turn around and throw 4 picks in a game, as we saw him do against the Rams this year. His floor is much lower than what Brock Purdy is. There's just on the erratic spectrum. I call it the Corbin Smith erratic spectrum for QBs. Yes. He's got one of the widest spectrums you're going to have. Now, he has spent most of this season on the right side of that, which is why Seattle's got a chance to get a 14-3 record this season. But there's no question, because of that erratic play and the fact that he played for the New York Jets, at this point, I don't know if you could put prime Peyton Manning on the New York Jets and he could be good. Like, they just cannot do anything with quarterbacks. But Sam Darnold has not had that opportunity, very many opportunities to play in games like this. This is probably the biggest game he's ever gotten to play in his career. Yeah, considering who's on the other sideline and getting thrust into this rivalry that is very much alive and well. So, yeah, this is easily his biggest game. And I can make an argument, even with Brock Purdy being to a Super Bowl and would have been to a second one potentially without an injury his rookie year. But, like, I can make an argument this is the biggest regular season game that Brock Purdy's ever played in part because they're playing the Seahawks and they're playing a defense, no offense to the Chicago Bears, but the Bears gave up 42 points to Joe Flacco earlier this year. Yeah. And this defense that Seattle has is not the Chicago Bears defense, and it's not close. So I think from that perspective that, this might be the biggest regular season game that Brock Purdy's ever played.
I think it is. I go back to Brock Purdy's rookie season, and the second game he ever played in the NFL was at home with Tom Brady, the prodigal son, coming back to to play against his childhood team. And by the end of the game, the entire stadium, like, Brock Purdy's dad is in the crowd with tears running down his face. The entire stadium is chanting Brock Purdy's name as he beats Tom Brady, who comes back home. Like, that was a really big game, but the consequences of that game, I think, are dwarfed by the consequences of this game, because this game is worth 2 wins, because you get a free pass into the second round of the playoffs if you win this game and home field. So this is absolutely a huge football game. I can't wait to watch this one. I want to talk more about this game, more of the key matchups for the 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks, how this game might go on Saturday. And I think, as you laid out there, Corbin, clearly unlikely for the 49ers are going to score 42 points again against this Seattle Seahawks defense. So let's get into it here on this Week 18 for all the NFC marbles, crossover. Locked On 49ers, Locked On Seahawks next. This episode of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Seahawks is brought to you by Robinhood. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do, locking in on every opportunity, every opening, beating your PR, beating it again, a channel that drive you into your money. And Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood's Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. NFL crossover style, Locked On 49ers. Hey, I'm Brian Peacock. I'm with Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks, breaking down this Week 18 matchup. It is going to be a fantastic one. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. I want you, Corbin, first to talk to me about this Seattle Seahawks defense, which is number 2, I think, in the league to the Houston Texans, according to most metrics. It is a top defense in the league, and if Brock Purdy and the 49ers go out and score 42 points against this defense, they deserve the 1 seed in the NFC. I'm skeptical they'll be able to do that. The 49ers managed 17 points against the Seahawks the first time around, but that was many moons ago. What has happened through the course of this season? What are the strengths, weaknesses? Talk to me about this Seattle Seahawks defense. Why are they so good?
Yeah, it's hard to talk about weaknesses and with this defense. And I know that the Rams had a lot of success throwing the football against them on that Thursday night game. Matthew Stafford was just on one that night, and Puka Nacua. There were a couple of those plays where you just got to give Sean McVay credit for scheming. He had the perfect play call against what Seattle was doing defensively. But other than that, in the Tampa Bay game early in the season where they were missing half their starting defense in that game, you don't make excuses for that, but they were missing a lot of dudes in that game. Those are the only 2 games anybody's been able to really do much offensively against this team. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they are loaded at all 3 levels. They got playmakers at all 3 levels, high IQ guys. DeMarcus Lawrence has been one of the top 3 additions in the free agent class this year for any team. He's been phenomenal, making a Pro Bowl for the Seahawks. Ernest Jones is playing just like he did the second half last year. And maybe the biggest story is the newcomers in the secondary. And Nick Emanwori, that is the matchup that I am watching in this game, because San Francisco didn't get to see him very much in that first game. He got a high ankle sprain 4 plays into the game, and he got it on a tackle for loss on Christian McCaffrey, ironically enough. But if I had a vote, Nick Emanwori would be the defensive rookie of the year. And the big reason why is he plays basically everywhere except nose tackle. I mean, he has played everywhere. He's played at a high level, 2.5 sacks. He leads all safeties in pass breakups. He brought down Deebo Samuel earlier this year with 1 arm. I mean, this dude is a Terminator. And I think Seattle drafted him. They moved up to get him. One of the big reasons they did it was to deal with the tight ends in this division, because you've got Trey McBride. The Rams have some really good tight ends. And obviously George Kittle, who's hoping to play this weekend after missing last weekend. When Emanwori came out, Tyakata came in, and he was not prepared for that matchup, having to deal with George Kittle. They had not game planned for somebody else to be playing that specialty role. Tyakata is going to be starting this game for Kobe Bryant, and he's been fantastic since that first game of the season. So the depth that they've got, Emanwori being, I don't even like calling him a Swiss Army knife. Like, he's something else. Like, he is a Madden creative player. He can go all over the field. They can keep him on speedy receivers in the slot with his 4-2-3 wheels. He matches it well physically against tight ends. So if George Kittle's healthy enough to go here, that is the matchup that I think could swing this game, depending on if San Francisco can get Kittle open, he can make some plays, or if Emanwori, who has been fantastic since coming back from that ankle injury, makes a few plays on Brock Purdy and makes it that matchup goes Seattle's way.
I'm glad you brought up that matchup, because that was matchup number 1 for me. I can't wait to watch Nick Emanwori against the 49ers tight ends and George Kittle in particular. And by the way, according to George Kittle. I want to get this quote correct here. George Kittle was asked about how he feels and if he'll be able to play on that ankle on Saturday. He said, "Fabulous. Great position for Saturday night to punch a 1 seed. Just with that, I'm doing fantastic." And the reporters were like, "That doesn't make sense. Are you going to play?" And he said, "Absolutely." So that's George Kittle just being psyched about this game. And he says he's going to play. He only played a quarter of that first game against Seattle in week 1, scored a touchdown though. And the only other touchdown the 49ers scored was his backup, Jake Tongas, the tight end. So clearly that was somewhere the 49ers thought they could beat the Seahawks was at tight end. As you mentioned, Nick Emanwori didn't play a factor in that game. So with the 49ers try that again, watching Nick Emanwori, who's basically a sort of a bizarro reverse version of Simmons, who the Cardinals drafted, 5 years ago now? He actually has been
good. That's the first thing.
That's the thing. He's the reverse version because Simmons was the prototype tweener who had the athleticism but was not good at any position. Nick Emanwori is actually good at all the positions and is actually versatile.
I call him a slot safety. And you could even call him an outside slot safety because they'll put him as a defensive end and have him rush. Like he is one of one in terms of what you can do with him. And that's a scary thing is he's 21. Like he's only going to get better, but like this is a litmus test game for him to show what he can do on national television.
And I think we're talking key matchups, Kittle versus Emanwori will be a lot of fun. Christian McCaffrey against the best run defense in the NFL for the Seattle Seahawks. It's going to be a lot of fun. And even without Trent Williams, it's been amazing how good Austin Pleasance played in his place last week because he had to play 71 snaps out of 72 because Trent Williams hurt his hamstring on the first play of the stinking game. And Trent Williams, there's a chance he might play in this one. I don't expect that Trent Williams is going to be out there. So we need to talk about, the Seattle pass rush against the 49ers. But just from a standpoint of a team that wants to use one player as much as possible, and we expect Christian McCaffrey to get 25 touches per game, if not more, every single week, is he going to find space to run? And the 49ers run game has gotten better and better somehow with all the workload that Christian McCaffrey's had, and he's actually looked very spry and made some plays in recent weeks and actually created more big plays in recent weeks, which has been a staple of Kyle Shanahan's offense. They've had a tough time creating those explosive runs. They've gotten those recently. Can they break off some of those against the Seattle Seahawks? That would be huge for the 49ers. But again, like I said, one of the best run defenses, if not the best, in the NFL. And every team that comes in that plays the 49ers tries to stop Christian McCaffrey first. If they can do that, get Brock in more deep third down situations, I mean, obviously that's step one to beating the 49ers.
Yeah, and look, Seattle, no offense to the Chicago Bears, but the Bears do not have the defensive line anywhere close to the defensive line that the Seattle Seahawks. And oh, by the way, Derek Hall is going to be back from his suspension. So they're going to have Lawrence. They're going to have Mafe. They're going to have Uchenna Nwosu, who is a comeback player of the year candidate. He's been fantastic this year. And then you get Derek Hall to go with that. And oh, by the way, again, no offense to Chicago, they don't have Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy and Jaron Reed in the middle. So you may have been able, we'll see. And if Austin Pleasance can do it again, we'll see. But if he's got to step up competition to what the Seahawks are going to be throwing at, I can tell you right now, DeMarcus Lawrence would be licking his chops for the chance to, because Chicago didn't have anybody that turns speed to power the way that DeMarcus Lawrence does.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, yeah.
Sorry,
and the 49ers know DeMarcus Lawrence well, so that may help them in this game. But he's also played really well against them in the past too. So,
well, I wouldn't say the one time that Austin Pleasance got and Brock was sacked only one time against the Bears was Booker got him. I think Montez Sweat had a couple of nice rushes, but it's a different front and it's a different defense. The Bears are a bad run defense and not they're opportunistic with taking the ball away, but that's been the strength of that Bears defense. There's going to be less space to run for the 49ers. Clearly, I want to get more into this and more into this matchup with the 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks and how this thing might go Saturday, which I can't wait to watch. Let's get into more of these matchups next. This episode of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Seahawks brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like it's a big challenge, but with Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. with high pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night. The action never slows down, and Prize Picks lets you stay in control. Prize Picks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build your lineups based on player projections. No drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less on those projections at Prize Picks, and you are on your way. And it is super fun, super easy. It takes less than 60 seconds to make a lineup, and you can make as many lineups with different combinations as you want. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, here we go. Locked On 49ers, Locked On Seahawks. Brian Peacock here with Corbin Smith to break down this Week 18 matchup. When it comes down to 49ers offense against Seattle Seahawks defense, it's good on good. This is the matchup of the whole game. It might get decided the other way, which I want to talk about, because maybe the good on good just is a stalemate. But I think beyond all of the players on the field, we got to talk about Kyle Shanahan against Mike Macdonald, because I think these are two very good coaches. They're younger guys, even though Kyle's been around, he's not that old of a guy yet. They're going to be around for a long time, and they are really good. And how those chess pieces are moved around is going to be a lot of fun in this matchup as well, Corbin.
It will be. But as you said, I don't know that this game is decided between those two guys, the side of the ball that they coach, because San Francisco, for the most part, is much healthier, other than we'll see with Trent Williams, but they at least have most of their key pieces on that side of the ball. Seattle, away from maybe missing Kobe Bryant this week, they're as healthy as they have been on the defensive side of the ball. And both Kyle Shanahan and Mike Macdonald are coming off games where they clearly were in their bag. I mean, Carolina is the same team that put up 31 points in the Rams, and Seattle didn't even give up a 9-yard pass to them last week. So, and the run game was shut down, another game under 100 total yards. So both these coaches are coming off games where they were pulling a lot of the rabbits out of the hat, and they were making life really hard for the other team. And that means that the pressure, and maybe it's not pressure, but pressure is going to be on Sam Darnold, the Seahawks offense, and the 49ers defense, which I want to ask you about the secondary situation going into this game, because that might be the biggest injury situation, not Trent Williams, the secondary. The fact that Upton Stout is in concussion protocol, Renardo Green has been banged up. I'm just wondering, I mean, Seattle, Rashid Shaheed practiced on Wednesday. Now, it was limited, but still, it looks like he's trending to be available potentially on Saturday. If Seattle's got Shaheed, Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp against that secondary, and oh, by the way, the 49ers, they've still had their issues with this, getting after the quarterback. When Sam Darnold's had time to throw, he's been absolutely lethal downfield. Like, I'm looking at that corner versus receiver battle from a Seahawks perspective, and just wondering how many more injuries can San Francisco put up with back there in this game. And look, no offense to Chicago, but Seattle, I think Seattle's got the way they're running the football the last few weeks, and just I think their offensive line is a little bit better than what Chicago's is. I just am very curious to see how that plays on the back end, though, with the 49ers. And Upton Stout's been really good. If he can't play in this game, I think that's a significant loss for San Francisco.
Upton Stout's an interesting one, because I do think his backup Chase Lucas is a really good player, and I haven't seen that much of a drop-off going from Stout to Lucas. And earlier on in the year, the 49ers were running out of rookie nickel, and you know how teams like to find matchups in the slot. So he got tested a lot, and he got beat sometimes, but he was up to the challenge. And so it was really fun to watch a young rookie and sort of an undersized player come in and compete and earn that spot and really deserve his spot as a starter on the 49ers defense. And I'm not sure what his status yet is going to be for this game as we record this, but I think the 49ers will be okay with Chase Lucas. But here's the thing that fascinates me, talking about this Seattle Seahawks offense, and I think Rashid Shaheed, we talked about it yesterday on our Locked On 49ers podcast, is he's kind of the X factor because he wasn't around in that first game. And he's obviously a dynamic playmaker. And so I'm glad you gave us the injury update on him, because in week one, the 49ers were kind of burnt by Jackson Smith and Jigba. He went for 9 catches, 124 yards. and it didn't hurt them. And so I wonder if it's that big of a deal if the 49ers get beat in the nickel and in the slot. It's like you can get yours, but as long as everyone else doesn't get theirs, and we do hold the running game as they did in week 1 to 42 combined yards or whatever between Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, I think the 49ers are okay with one guy getting theirs. The problem would be if Jackson Smith-Njigba goes for 124 and Rashid Shaheed has a big play or two here and there, and they're able to run the football. Now you have some big problems if you're the 49ers defense and you're playing against a much better defense on the other side where you can't go outscore them with 35 to 40 points. So that's what's interesting to me in this one is Jackson Smith-Njigba can get his, but everybody else can't also get theirs. Where's the spot? And if I'm not mistaken, is it right guard where the Seahawks have had some problems and they can be gotten? Now, can the 49ers get them there is the question.
Yeah, look, I've had some fans that have been giving me flack because they're like, you're the president of the Anthony Bradford fan club, but like he's given up 1 sack in the last 8 games. Like the issue is that when he has a bad play, it tends to go viral. Like his bad plays are really bad. And so I think it makes it an exaggeration for how bad of a player that a lot of these fans think he is. But like he also had a block on Sunday in Carolina that sprung Charbonnet for 29 yards, one-armed and outside a defensive end, one-armed him and knocked him to the ground. Like he's incredibly powerful. But he has been the one that has been the most vulnerable to giving up some bad plays and giving up quick pressures. Gray Zabel's generally been really good this year. The last few games, he's given up some pressures, which we'll see what he does this week. But, it's fascinating because I look at the tackle position. Both these teams are dealing with injuries. Charles Cross has sat out the last 2 weeks with a hamstring himself. Who knows if he can play Saturday or not? His backup, Josh Jones, has been excellent the last 2 weeks. He's a little banged up right now. Mike Macdonald made it sound like he's going to be good to go, but like the idea that undrafted rookie Amari Kite might potentially play in this game, like that would be a matchup that San Francisco, especially with the injuries they've had off the edge. If the Seahawks have Josh Jones healthy or Charles Cross plays in this game, he's good to go. They've been running the football. This is not the same team that San Francisco played in week 1 from that standpoint. Their run game has been a bazillion times better the last few weeks. Walker and Charbonnet have interchange 100-yard rushing games the last 2 weeks. And those two guys have really become that thunder and lightning package they hoped they were going to get. But the run blocking has been much more consistent in recent weeks. And looking at what Chicago could do testing those edges last week, that's what Seattle wants to do. They want to run that off tackle, the wide zone stuff. So if that tackle spot has a backup or another backup in there, that really could impact things. If Josh Jones is healthy, and with the injuries the 49ers have dealt with there and the lack of pass rush, and Chicago, the success they had testing the off tackle, you can bet your bottom dollar that Seattle is going to be coming out wanting to try to do that too.
The other injury report here is Renardo Green has been practicing to start the week. So he's looking good at corner on the outside for the 49ers to most likely come back and play for Darrell Luter there, who was his backup that started the last couple of games for the 49ers. So that said, we know who's going to be out there. We know the strengths. We know the weaknesses of these football teams. How do you see this one going on Saturday, Corbin?
I'm still trying to come up with a score prediction because I just feel like this is the way that I look at this. Is Seattle is going to be the more whole team coming into this game. They're obviously San Francisco's not getting Bosa or Warner back, and Brandon Ayuk's not driving 95 to get to the stadium to join the team. Like that,
104. Don't cut him short. 104 miles per hour.
So I guess. Seattle is coming into this game. They've won 15 road games in the last 2 years under Mike Macdonald. They're not going to be the least bit alarmed having to play somewhere else. They'll play anywhere and play good football. So I think a lot of people are going to look at Seattle and right now they're still 1.5 point favorites. I think that's fair. That's about the right number though, because I could see this coming down to a field goal late for either team, because I just think San Francisco, the job Kyle Shanahan has done and the way that offense is clicking, this is going to be a challenge for the Seahawks, as good as their defense is. they showed a couple weeks ago they can be got. Now, I don't think they're not going to let San Francisco do that again. I don't think they're going to allow 450 passing yards or anything like that. But San Francisco is going to be looking to get just enough big plays. That I think that 1.5, I could see this being like a 1 point or 2 point game either way. And I'm still very torn on which one I'm going to go with because my mind changes every 15 seconds thinking about. It's just, that's how excited I am about this game.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I think both teams have that, physical, violent, we're going to run the ball mentality. And I think both defenses are going to try to do everything they can to stop that. And it's going to be put in the hands of the quarterbacks. And it's going to be Purdy against Darnold. And they're going to have to throw. And the Niners aren't going to put up 42 points. But I think there's going to be more points scored than there was the first time around. So it's not going to be 42-38. It's not going to be 17-13. Somewhere in between. I think it's kind of a pick 'em. I think it's interesting that the Niners were favored to start, and then the Seahawks are now favored. So there's at least some early money coming in on the Seahawks. I don't know what that matters. I don't care about the betting angle too much, but it's just interesting to see how that sort of thing works. But 24-20, 24-21, one of those. It's going to be a field goal game. By the way, Niners special teams suddenly is amazing. Where are the Seahawks special teams at? Because it might come down to that.
Seattle has been in the top 2 in DVOA for special teams pretty much all season. And
there we go.
So that might be the equalizer. San Francisco can play with them on special teams. And that's where Shaheed being healthy. First 3 games with a 3-game span with the team had a kick and punt return for a touchdown. You can ask Sean McVay about that. Like that's been a huge part of Seattle's success. They've been very good
extra because Cooper Kupp's not a big play specialist. Just that extra dynamism on offense too. You don't have to make that many plays on offense, but if Rashid can get that one big play, all of a sudden there's a 45-yard play like that.
But it feels like Cooper Kupp. Like I've been saying this for a few weeks, but it feels like there's going to be a game where he is going to factor in more. And I'm wondering if this. I'm just throwing this out there. Okay. I'm wondering if this could be the game we see more Cooper Kupp, just because, especially if Stout's not playing. Chase Lewis is not a big guy. Like that could be the matchup that Cooper Kupp could have some success in. So we'll see. We'll see. I have never been more fired up as a reporter to cover a game than this one on Saturday night. So
can the Seattle Seahawks slow down the juggernaut that is Brock Purdy? We are going to find out on Saturday for the NFC West. I can't wait. For Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks, I am Brian Peacock of Locked On 49ers. You guys got to check out the Everydayer Club. You can find the link to that in the show notes. And of course, both of us will be back tomorrow and post game on our respective podcasts. And thanks for tuning in to another Locked On NFL crossover.